Good evening. This is meteorologist DT from weatherist.com with the Snowstorm podcast for Friday evening, January 26th. And didn't think I would have a lot to talk about the Snowstorm podcast, but actually I do. So let's get right to it and take a look and see what's going on here. We'll start out by taking a look at the current jet stream pattern, and you can clearly see it's a Pacific jet stream pattern. We have one trough here over the Midwest. There's no doubt about that. Actually over the East Coast, and then we have another one over the Rockies, as you can see. Quite noticeable right here. The other one's noticeable here, and of course the howling Pacific jet, which is typical. Often get that this time of year. You can see that as well, bringing the energy in here. So it's a Pacific pattern. We're in the January thaw. This is what typically happens. Now we do have some changes coming up here, but a lot of people are getting too excited over the changes. So we have to take it step by step and see what's going on here. Now we begin to get a ridge of falling on the west coast, and that drops a trough into the Midwest here that has a negative tilt to it over the on Monday. And normally having a negative tilt over the Mississippi Valley, which is what we have here. Let me get my marker up so you can see it. Having it right here is actually, I'm not sure, my marker isn't working today. Oh, there it is. Having it right here in this area is a good sign, but that's when you have some blocking over southeastern Canada and a negative NAO. And what that does is that causes the low to form and closes up to the coast. We don't have that. And in fact, there's no blocking over eastern Canada at all, as you can see. So what happens is the low pressure area develops and it kind of moves very progressively off the coast. And the reason why it does is because we have another big trough coming in right here behind it. So there's a small possibility of something on Monday, but I'm not that excited about it. I know some people are. I think it's mostly a bunch of hype and hysteria, but let's take a look at it. Now, this is the European from early on Friday morning. This is the 0Z run. So this is the 0Z Friday run. You can see it right here, 0Z Friday. And of course, you can see where the low was. It's way off the coast. The low is here. So there's nothing going on. Strong north winds. That's about it. And this is for Tuesday morning. So that's what the previous European was showing. Now it started to change with the afternoon GFS. You can see here the GFS model very nicely. Now let me highlight this rain snow line, 0 degrees at 850 millibars. So that's where your rain snow line is. Now remember, you have to be cold enough at aloft at 850 millibars for snow, and at the surface all the way down to the ground. It's got to be below 0 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit. Okay, so even though the temperature here at 1 mile above the ground was cold enough for snow over northern Virginia on Monday morning, the 32-degree line is still fairly far to the north. So this is in the mid-30s here. Now this is all rain in Richmond and Norfolk and Charlotte and Raleigh and eastern North Carolina and the Delmarva. So there's the low pressure area, but this is all rain in here. Now there's cold enough technically for snow, like I said, north of the black line. Now this is on the GFS for Monday afternoon. Now again, you can see the purple line here has moved off the coast, and you're thinking, okay, well maybe it's now gone over to snow in eastern Virginia. But the problem is it's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And remember, this is precip over the last 6 hours. A lot of people forget this. This is precipitation. All this green stuff is precipitation over the last 6 hours. So it doesn't mean it's snowing right now in the Delmarva. That means over the past 6 hours, this is where the precipitation was. So you have to keep that in mind. But the point here is that you can see the low pressure area on the GFS is a little closer to the coast. There it is. And there's your rain snow line. So if there's any precipitation over central and northern Virginia north of that, technically at 1 mile above the ground, it could be snowing. Now look where the 32-degree line is. It's way far to the north. And the reason for that is because the temperatures have warmed up on Monday. They're still too warm. This is not Arctic air we're dealing with here. It's still Pacific mild air. So let's keep that in mind. We go on to our next slide here. Okay. Next slide is, now this is the GFS at 87 hours and at 93 hours. You can see by early Tuesday morning lows off the coast. Now the atmosphere has become cold enough for a period of snow over central Virginia, Maryland, maybe DC. You can see it right here. This is 4 o'clock on Tuesday morning. This is this is also on Tuesday morning. One is a previous update, and this is the other one. So both of them have it. This was the one from 0Z on Friday morning. This is the 12Z run, and they both have this area of snow right here. So Maybe there'll be a period of snow in Central Virginia, Washington, D.C. I wouldn't get too excited about it, but it's possible from the upper level energy. Now this is the, let me clear this out. This is the European here from this afternoon. And this is a high resolution, so I enlarged it so you can see it. And again, the low develops Monday afternoon off the coast. The purple line again represents abstractly where the rain snow line is. That doesn't mean everything north of it is snow, because you have to worry about your low level temperatures. This is not Arctic air we're dealing with. So here's the low forming now on Monday evening, and it's got some sort of mixed precipitation over eastern Virginia and the Delmarva. Is it cold enough for snow, or is it mostly mixed precipitation? This is now Tuesday morning. The low is hitting southeastern New England. Clearly, southeast New England is now cold enough for all snow. The highs come in. The north winds pull down the cold air. Maybe some snow over upstate New York. And they're getting a pretty good snowstorm even through Tuesday evening over southeastern New England and down East Maine and into Halifax and New Brunswick and what have you. And very, very windy on the coast. Again, look at these winds here on Tuesday morning. It's going to be howling over the mid-Atlantic states with these winds. All right. Next slide here. This is the European from the afternoon European. Now this is Monday evening, and again, here's our rain snow line technically right here, but the 32-degree line is far to the north. So maybe this is mixed precipitation in here on Monday evening if it's cold enough. If it's cold enough on Monday evening over central and eastern Virginia. Again, not a big deal, but possible. And then finally, Tuesday morning, the low is now off the coast. You've got moderate snow in southeastern New England, eastern Long Island, light snow in New England, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, that sort of thing. If you look at the snow amounts from the European in Virginia, Maryland, not a lot. Trace amounts, a little bit on the GFS ensemble here over eastern New England, not a big deal. Now the problem is the temperatures. We talked about it. Look at these temperatures Monday afternoon, 1 o'clock. So sure, you can look at this and say, oh, look at that, 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. Maybe it's snowing in central and eastern Virginia, the Delmarva, southern New Jersey. But when you go here and look at the temperatures, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're 40 degrees in Richmond, 41 in Norfolk, 42 Raleigh, you're 42 Philadelphia, D.C., Baltimore, New York. And now by Monday evening, this is 10 o'clock Monday evening, you're 36 in Richmond. That's okay. 36 in Norfolk, 37 in Raleigh, 32, 30 in Baltimore, D.C. Maybe cold enough there for snow. Very marginal. Nothing really to get that excited about. And if you look in New England, you see the same sort of thing here. Very mild, warm, all rain Monday afternoon, and then it gets colder Monday night finally as the storm pulls away. Not a big deal. If you look at the ensembles, now here's the European ensemble, and sure enough, it seems to show a cluster of very strong indication of a coastal low forming. And you can see it right here. Look at the cluster of all these little L's. Okay? But it's pretty far off the coast. And then it's even stronger here. Now this is for valid on 96 hours Tuesday morning. But the low is really far off the coast. A lot of clusters. Coastal low is going to form. We know that for a fact. How close to the coast does it get? And the other problem is if it gets too close to the coast, because there's no cold air, your temperatures are too warm. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Let me show you what I mean. Now this is the GFS ensemble. The one in the upper left here, this is the one from early the morning. So this is a Friday morning, early Friday morning. See where the cluster is? Off the coast. Now it's closer to the coast. So that's good, more precipitation. You're thinking, okay, great, more precipitation. The problem is, look at these temperatures. Let me get my map here. For some reason, this is not coming up. There we go. Here we go. Look at these temperatures on Monday morning. Temperatures mid-40s, upper 30s. That's just too warm for any sort of stakage of snow. Especially the rain that's going to fall ahead of the system, how warm it's been. The other problem is now, can it come any closer? Could it slow down? Could it pull more cold air in? In my view, no. And this is the GFS, the upper air map, 500 millibar with the vorticity. There's another short wave right here. You can clearly see it. I've highlighted it right there coming in, which is going to drive this trough off the coast rapidly. This is coming in really fast. And we can see that also on the European. There it is. The European's got the same thing. This short next piece of energy coming in on the Pacific jet through southern Canada is going to kick this thing off the coast. So I'm not impressed with this. Again, it's a minor event. I don't think it's going to come any closer to the coast because of the upstream energy. That's how I see it. I could change. I might be wrong, but that's how I see it right now. All right, longer term, let's look at teleconnections. Here's the Arctic oscillation. What's it doing? Well, again, we're looking at the green line. Okay, so it drops down negative on our February 1st and it stays generally negative. We like that. That's good for snowstorms. The North Atlantic oscillation, however, mostly neutral. Begins to go negative a little bit in mid-February, after February 10th. A little bit. Not great. Not horrible, not great. If you look, the slide 21, here we go. This is the Pacific side of the equation now. Here's our P&A. The P&A is, consistently negative, as you can see here. Definitely negative, and then begins to rise a little bit towards the end. We'll see if that happens. And the EPO, very strong. It drops negative here. That's when you have the big ridge going up to Alaska on the models, and that's what we'll see here. Very strongly negative after February 4th or 5th. And here it is. Now this here is the upper air map, and the temperatures at 850, and you can see there's our ridge going up. Remember, we just talked about the negative EPO going up right up into Alaska, way up in here, and there's our polar vortex pulling the cold air southward. But notice it does not plunge southward. It comes and makes a turn like this. So the heart of the cold air, you can see the serious cold is here, but it does not come plunging southward, not through February 5th. So be careful bringing the cold air southward here, folks. A lot of people are getting hyped up over it, and this is impressive cold air coming in. But just like in December, the cold air came in dribs and drabs and then turned progressively colder. That may be what we're looking at in February. So don't go hog wild with the cold that early, especially over the eastern U.S. Let me show you why. I'll get to that in a second. Now this is February 8th, same sort of thing. Now you can see the cold air has come a little further south, but it's still mostly along the U.S.-Canada border. Virginia's 850 temperatures are 0 to +4. That's not great. Missouri, Kentucky, that's ice is what it is if you're going to get any winter precipitation here. And you can see there's a little bit of a ridge here, so this implies some sort of front. There's a ridge here. This implies some sort of front right here, where you could have ice or snow or what have you along the front. And we can see that in taking a look at the week 2 of precipitation temperatures from the European Weekly. Now here's our precipitation. You can clearly see that, very nice. This whole thing, a lot of precip right here. But look at our temperatures. Then this is cold right here. So this is the real serious cold. So the hot Kentucky snow in this precipitation, Mississippi, maybe Arkansas, yeah, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky. Maybe the Appalachians is all snow. Here, this could be ice, because temperatures only half a degree above normal. They're not really above normal, just a little bit. So, but this could be a big snow for the Shenandoah Valley, and this sort of precipitation. The cold enough for snow, the climatology supports it. The big snow, the precip's coming up the spine of the Appalachians. This could be a very nice event for the Shenandoah Valley, western North Carolina, West Virginia, western Maryland. It's a long way out, but it's shaping up that way. Let's talk about the MJO for a second. There it is. In case you don't know what it is, it develops, in the Indian Ocean and moves along the equator from the Indian Ocean over Singapore through Indonesia, passing north of Australia, and then it heads towards South America. And of course, it goes through these phases. So right now, the MJO is in phase 5. You can clearly see that. So these are our different phases. There's phase 5, phase 6, phase 7, phase 8. Each one of these phases corresponds to temperatures and precipitation, depending on the month. So it's a useful tool. And it has nothing to do with weather models, so it's kind of cool that way. You can independently confirm trends outside of the weather model. So the models we're looking at here, the GFS, the European Ensemble, all show the MJO is increasing in intensity, which means that its impact is going to be more likely. And as you can see, it goes into phase 7 by early February, and then phase 8 by mid-February, and phase 1 by late February. So what does that mean? Well, here's our temperatures and precip. As you can see, phase 8, 1, 2, 3, they get pretty cold in the east. And then if you look at phase 8, that's dry, but 1 and 2, you can clearly see moisture coming up the east coast, which is why those are the snowstorm patterns. If we look at the 16 to 20 day, we continue that pattern. We'll see that over the cold is again west of the Appalachians, over the upper plains, southern Canada, the Midwest, and it's a dry pattern. It's just a dry pattern, especially for the plains where they're developing this drought here. But if we look at the MJO, this is MJO in phase. This is 8. This is phase 8 here. So this is February. Whenever the MJO is strongly a +1 or greater, which is what it is, in February, phase 8, you get the snowstorm pattern. Huge blocking over Greenland, gigantic negative anomaly over the mid-Atlantic. This is the snowstorm pattern when it happens that way. Now, there are some differences with that. If we focus most on La Nina, we get a little different pattern here, but it's still a strong signal for a snowstorm. We get this. Okay, the strong negative anomaly on the mid-Atlantic coast, snowstorm pattern, no doubt about that. Phase 8 in February, yeah, we like that if you like snowstorms. All right, phase 1, wow, that looks pretty damn good too. Yeah, it does. That's something to get excited about, no doubt about that. And then phase 3, excuse me, and this is phase here 2. Now here, the trough goes back into the plains of the Rockies. We have a ridge off the southeast coast, so this might be good for the Midwest. Now longer term, going to mid-February, it's a nice trough. It's a cold pattern, but it's not extremely cold. There's no sign the Arctic air comes plunging southward. It's along the U.S.-Canada border. No reason to get excited about it through mid-March. And if we look at our precipitation, same sort of thing. Week 3, which is mid-February, we can see a temperature boundary here. And again, it's about a half a degree, 1 degree above normal. So this could be snow or ice, depending on it. And here we have a lot of precipitation here along that boundary. So this is mostly snow in here into New England, and this could be ice in this whole area here. So another possibility. Now further down the road, the Rossby wave model is showing something really significant. It's showing that the polar vortex is going to plunge southward mid-February, and temperature is plunging. You can really see it here. It's been doing this now for several days, at least a couple of weeks in mid-February. Don't know if it's going to happen, but it might. And if we look at the temperature signal is pretty strong as well. You can see severe cold temperatures here over the eastern U.S. at the end of February going into early March. So that doesn't mean it's going to be a snowstorm, but it's a cold pattern, no doubt about that, potentially in mid-February. I think the Arctic cold will come southward, but it's not going to happen February 2nd. It's not going to happen February 5th. It's not going to happen February 8th. It'll be longer than that. And maybe by then we'll get into the snowstorm pattern. But you got to give this time to evolve, folks. We've gone from a January thaw. We're going to be slowly evolving around February 1st through the first week of February. That doesn't mean it's going to be a snowstorm February 2nd. Take your time. Give it a chance to evolve. This is meteorologist DT from weatherrisk.com. I'll talk to you soon.